Hello, welcome to Into the World Radio. I'm your host, Kurt. Today's episode, I'm just going to go over the general nature of existence, specifically sort of medical interventions or technological interventions. So, the natural human state is what you would call healthy. Right? And then if you become unhealthy, you get moved into an unnatural state. Then you can use like medicines or technological intervention that will push you back into the natural state. If you use too much technology or too many medical interventions, or you do something too unnatural, you'll continue to push the body into an unnatural state. Like all sort of interventions and technology, medicine, everything else pushes the body into an unnatural state. If you adapt to that unnatural state, then you will become dependent on the technological intervention or the medicine or the drug because you'll acclimate to it. Then to try and quit the drug will cause withdrawal symptoms, right? Additionally, when you do something too unnatural, like it's natural for humans to use a little bit of technology, a little bit of medicine, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, in a sane way. When we do things so much that it alters the center of gravity of humanity, like when you try and change what humanity is, like from the rational egoic perspective, because it's like all of our personalities, all of our personas, everything else is something created by the biology, created by God, created by nature. So our limited egoic, rationalistic, conceptual understanding is always less than what is actually happening, meaning that our physicality, nature itself, is vastly more intelligent, powerful, and longer thinking than our psychology. So if we deviate from what it is doing, it will destroy us. It'll destroy the deviation. This is an act of mercy in some sense, because it's like if you use too much technology or unnatural means of existing, then instead of that just being sort of a natural thing that we do, like, oh, we kind of play around with some technology, medicine, hoopla doopla, if we become dependent on that, suddenly we are enslaved to it, like an addict. So if you become enslaved to technology rather than like a user or a dabbler of technology, if you become enslaved to medicine rather than using medicine, that's an indication that you've entered an unnatural state. So that has two consequences, one of which is the normal like sort of addiction thing and withdrawal and dependency, and then the other one is that the natural state is the biology, is the consciousness, is the intelligence underlying and creating the psychological state. So it will destroy the psychological state, interfering with the natural state. This will be done via plague, disease, disaster, like however it wants to do it, because it can control the psychology. So it's like if people start using like ridiculously powerful medicine and tinkering with gene therapy or eugenics or like technological implants, like altering consciousness with a ridiculous amount of drugs, altering consciousness with like strange pyramids, altering consciousness with brain chips, altering consciousness by fusing bodies with the internet directly, like anything that you do where you're like unconsciously, altering the state of being to try and make it something that the psychology has figured out as like better, instead of trying to understand and find and work with the natural state to try and work with God. We will be destroyed. Like we will be freed from that slavery, right? So like right now everyone's like, there's particular medical techniques and medical treatments that people are considering doing or having done, and these techniques like require like monthly or bi-yearly treatments in perpetuity, and they also like divorce us from natural disease, right? Like disease and everything is part of the natural state, and if you're afraid of it or you don't want to get it, then you would make the natural state healthier, more robust. Like what is unnatural is the attempt to defeat disease using absurd levels of technology that like radically alter existence, that like radically alter the disease relationship, because disease and death is part of life. So if you try and radically alter our relationship with disease, like by removing people from the consequences of their lifestyles, right? Like disease, our physicality is supposed to reflect and be related to our personal choices. So like if you try and remove the consequence of people's choices rather than enhancing their choices, you shift yourself and you shift humanity into an unnatural state of being. This unnatural state of being will be destroyed by the higher consciousness that is the human body, and by the even higher still consciousness that is God, which creates the natural state. Because when you deviate from the natural state, you become a slave to the things that you use to deviate from it. The same way that everyone is dependent on all the technology, all the drugs, all the medicine, everything that they need, they become dependent on it, they become enslaved by it. So the destruction is a grace and a generosity and a promise of God to destroy that which is bad, to destroy slavery, even if it's self-inflicted. Like nobody is stupid enough to be allowed to do that sort of thing. So it's like when people are tinkering with this stuff, A, it's not how you defeat death, and B, you're literally summoning more death, because like by advocating and pushing these hyper advanced technological states, you will summon death for not working with reality, right? And like trying to defeat reality and trying to divorce people from the consequences of their free will will not be allowed or tolerated by any stretch of the imagination. So like everyone's supporting massive medical interventions, everyone's supporting like massive technological interventions, is also supporting the summoning of the destruction of the dependency on those things. Like the biology, life, nature does not want to be dependent on drugs or dependent on technology to exist and to know things or to relate with other people. It does not want that. And it is smarter than us. It can control everything in this realm, everything on this planet. So it can wipe us out any way that it sees fit. And it will do that. So it's like I don't understand how Christians or people that understand that the body is a higher consciousness than the psychology, that nature is a higher consciousness than the human ego and the human psychology. I don't get how people in that camp, and I don't get how Christians are sort of advocating or going along with massive like sociological intervention on society, like trying to control how people commune with each other, trying to control death, trying to control disease with just like ridiculous medical intervention, like literally hijacking, inserting false, like I don't know, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get how people. I don't get it. I don't get where people are coming from. I get I get the nihilistic, atheistic, sort of Satanist type people being on board with this. Like people that people that think that the human ego and rationality and then their personality is like smarter than their body or the sum total, the mass of humanity. I get that people that think that they are sort of smarter than nature or smarter than God, or that there is no God. I get that they're into this, but I don't get the people that have seen through their ego, and I don't get Christians. I don't get people that understand the intelligence of the body, or Christians even halfway being on board with the type and the scale of technical, medical, and sociological intervention happening right now, as if the human psychology and these egos are going to come up with something that is good, like a net good, and not throw the whole system horrifically out of bounds to the point where the higher intelligence of the system comes in and destroys everything that we're doing. Like, none of it makes any freaking sense to me. Like, at least in that crowd. Like I said, the atheist and the sort of Luciferian pride types that think that they are God, or the people that like think their ego or their psychology knows anything at all. Like, I get them being this stupid, and I get sort of resentful Satanists being this stupid, but I don't get the people that have realized the consciousness and the higher intelligence of human nature itself over human psychology, and I don't understand Christians even remotely going along with any of this. It doesn't make it. I don't get it. So if somebody can understand this to me, like if you're in one of those crowds and you're like, oh yeah, some of this stuff seems even remotely okay. Like you're not. Like, yeah, tell me what's going on in your head, because it seems like you've gone batshit insane. I'd love to hear from you.